Hello, and welcome back again. This is Figurine Friday with Johnny Tiger on May 19, 2023. This is a makeup video for our missing Toy Thursday from yesterday. Now, opening the show for us, we have the governor, the former uh, governor of California himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, playing as the Terminator. And this one is actually quite fitting because this is the older Terminator from one of the later movies where they still have Schwarzenegger's visage and voice, but he wasn't really doing the movie. Like it wasn't really his own physical body. They got a stuntman doing the rest for him. But obviously they have to cash in on his very iconic facial image and his voice and all that stuff. So, are we doing an episode on Terminators? That would be kind of fun, actually, although I don't really have enough Terminator action figures to do a full episode on that, but it would be fun. It would be fun. No, actually, today, when I looked on what's special about today, it is, uh, well, there's a lot of things that makes today special. I could have just gone with uh, Endangered Species Day. That would be super, super easy. But I think that would be a lot less fun because uh, today is also celebrate your elected official day. And I thought that would be kind of challenging and kind of fun. Uh, and it was. It took me almost an hour to try to come up with who I wanted to show today. And of course, the former governor of California is a good way to open this episode because of that. You know, what's better than a guy who was actually in politics and elected official? That's just totally, totally awesome for this episode. Um, Now, I am sorry because I couldn't actually find any information on this day, like this celebrate your elected official day. The little blurb I found on Google basically had this long and boring and dry article about how we should appreciate democracy and appreciate our elected city officials and politicians because this shows that democracy is working and so on and so on and so on. Now, I have my own personal thought about whether thing should be celebrated or not. I personally don't think much of politicians, but be that as it may, I thought, hey, yeah, we should always appreciate democracy. That's good. Democracy is a good thing. However, I did have a bit of a chuckle when I tried to Google, and I couldn't find anything else about celebrate your elected official day. Like when did it start, who started it, and all that stuff. I couldn't find anything about it. So I turned to my trusty AI in the chat GPT, and I asked the AI, I said, uh, who started celebrate your elected official day. Tell me the origin and history and when did it start. And then ChatGPT came back with the celebrate your official day is a small movement for people to celebrate democracy. However, there's no further information about it because apparently not too many people are interested in it. So I guess I'm not the only one who feel that, yeah, these guys really should be doing a much better job in their office for us to celebrate them. But hey, I don't want to spend the rest of this episode rambling on and on about how lousy our politicians are and how the economy is a mess and how there's so much that need to be done and is not done and all that stuff. No, this is not a political episode or not supposed to be anyway. Let's look at our figure of the day, and the figure that will help us celebrate uh, your elected official in a rather ironic way. Now, doesn't this guy just look like a very perfect image of most elected officials? I mean, he's a big, chunky, fat guy in a suit, right? I mean, yeah. When I was little, one thing that me and my younger brother did a lot was when we would do role-playing games and tabletop games and stuff like that, we would uh, do uh, character archetypes. So, for example, if we in our story we need uh, someone to be the town's mayor, this guy would be it. Okay, this guy, like, we didn't even need to know who this guy was. This guy automatically get selected to be the town's mayor. If we needed someone to be the president or a corrupt politician or some corrupt officials in the government, this guy automatically gets a job. Like almost every single time, you need a multi-millionaire tycoon who's evil and corrupt. This guy gets a job. This guy was like the archetype for that kind of role. Now, who is this guy? If you know your Marvel superheroes, if you know your Spider-Man, you know this is Kingpin. But if you don't know who Kingpin is, then let me give you a quick rundown of his history. Now, this guy is one of my personal favorite uh, villains, characters in Spider-Man, and this is one of my personal favorite action figures. So there's quite a bit to talk about. Unfortunately, because of the super long history of the Kingpin and his criminal career, there's no way that I'm going to be able to give you the whole story, but I'm going to sort of give you a watered down, abbreviated version. And if you guys are interested, I'm sure you can find more materials about the Kingpin and his super convoluted backstory. So let's begin. There's not a lot people know about the Kingpin before he suddenly appeared in New York's criminal underground. The little that we know is that he grew up in poverty. He said himself that he was a sad, fat, blubbery kid that got picked on a lot, and his father was a drug addict. And Kingpin already committed his first murder when he was 12 years old. Uh, because he wanted to get himself out of poverty. He grew up in what you would call the really rough part of town. So he learned early on that if he wanted to change his life, he had to literally take the bull by the horn and wrestle it to submission. To that end, the Kingpin, real name Wilson Fisk, Wilson Fisk. That's such a great name for a criminal mastermind. Wilson, we'll just call him Wilson. Uh, Wilson, at a young age, learned that to get anywhere, he had to rely on himself. He had to be powerful. He had to be best at everything. So even though he didn't have money to go to school and get books and stuff like that, he would go to libraries and stores and steal books so he could learn about science and technology and all that stuff. He was a very much self-taught kid, and one of his biggest interests lies in political science. He also realized that to be the kind of person he wanted to be, to live the life he wanted to, he couldn't just rely on smart. He had to have the bronze as well. So early on, he started bodybuilding. He became one of the best bodybuilders in the world, and also became one of the best martial artists around in a human level in Marvel Comics. He excelled in sumo wrestling, aikido, and judo. From the time when he was 15, he already orchestrated some street gang wars and went up against the mafia and worked his way up. He was first enforcer for one of the mafia bosses, but very soon the Kingpin proved to everyone that he was stronger, smarter, and more ruthless than all the gangsters out there, and he consolidated all the gangs of New York under his own banner, not merely being satisfied to be a gang overlord. He also used a lot of his money to invest in legal businesses. The first company that he owned dealt in spices from Far East Asian countries. So even though he is one of the greatest mastermind in criminal underworld, the Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk, always will tell people that he is nothing but a humble spice merchant. Despite for being a merciless, a cruel, powerful gang lord, Wilson Fisk has a soft spot, which was his wife Vanessa. He met his wife Vanessa when they were both in their 20s and got married very quickly, and she very soon pretty much became the only weakness in Wilson Fisk's life. And he often said she is the only thing in the world that calmed him down from the rage and violence he felt in his soul. Later, uh, after ruling the entire criminal element in New York, uh, actually, the Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk, actually tried to go straight for a while because his wife asked him to. She had enough of his criminal activities and basically said she was going to leave him if he didn't ditch his entire criminal empire and they could go and live in the mountain in peace. So Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, the ruler of the entire criminal underworld, actually abandoned everything and ran off with his wife so they could live the rest of their life in peace. Sadly, some lousy person uh, arrested, oh, not arrested, but kidnapped Vanessa, and they staged like a fake death for her to get the Kingpin back into criminal activity. Thinking that his beloved wife was killed, the Kingpin came back to New York with vengeance and rebuilt his criminal empire bigger and badder than ever. Like I said, the Kingpin has been a long-standing mastermind, criminal, bad guy in Marvel Universe, and there's just too much to talk about. But suffice to say, he's been around long enough to have run-ins with superheroes and vigilantes like Spider-Man, Punisher, Daredevil, uh, and Bullseye, some of the villains like Bullseye and Elektra, and so on and so on. He's basically mingling with that whole group there. Spider-Man, Daredevil, Luke Cage, to name a few. Uh, and this is quite impressive. Okay, like the Kingpin, as big and powerful as he is, he's a normal human. Well, I mean, as normal as uh, human in comic book standard. I mean, what do you consider Batman a normal human? I mean, so let's put it this way: Kingpin is not superhuman. Okay, he does. You shoot him in the head, he'll die. You stab him in the chest, he'll die. You cut him, he'll bleed. He can't climb walls and jump from 10-story building and stuff like that. But he's tangled with Punisher and survived. He tangled with Spider-Man and survived. But I mean that part easy because Spider-Man always holding back, But uh, the Kingpin has tangled with Daredevil and survived, so he has uh, been the thorn in a lot of these superhumans side, and they haven't been able to do anything to him because of his smart, his intelligence, his connection, his resources, and his physical prowess in battle. So why is this criminal mastermind the focus of today's episode? Because since we're celebrating elected officials, because during his criminal ventures, Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, has uh, filled many roles. He has been the leader of a terrorist group called Hydra, or at least one branch of them. He has also been the head of the United States branch of the Hand Ninja, another terrorist group that is all ninja and martial art and all that stuff. He has been the leader of multiple gangs and basically united the entire gang element in New York under his banner. And he also had been the mayor of New York for a short time. Yeah, like I said, his background was in political science, so uh, he used his smart and charm and resources and got himself elected to be mayor in one of his stories. So this guy definitely counts as one of our elected officials. Like I said, he just looked the part. He just looked like our typical idea of a corrupt elected official, which is why I said we're celebrating this with a bit of irony. Before we go fully into this action figure of the Kingpin, let me talk a little bit about the Kingpin's physical prowess and physical attributes. The Kingpin stands 6 foot 7 inches tall and weighs 450 pounds. Okay? Yeah, scary, isn't it? Now, most people make the mistake of assuming that his bulk is mostly fat because the way he dressed, you can't really see what kind of build he has. And so a lot of people assume that he's a big fat guy. In fact, a lot of superheroes like to make fun of him by calling him Fatso and Santa Claus and stuff like that. But that would be playing right into his deception because the Kingpin is nothing but pure muscle under all that clothes. In fact, out of his 450 pounds, only 9 pounds of that was fat, at least going by his biography. Now, this is a guy who grew up being one of the best bodybuilder in the world and do sumo wrestling and judo and aikido, hapkido, and all kind of fighting. Okay, just to give you a context, just to give you guys some context about how scary this guy is in the fight. He went up against 17. Uh, he went up against 17 martial artists, like some of the best martial artists in from various martial arts school, and he defeated them all under 10 seconds. Okay, one guy against 17 and beat them under 10 seconds. Right? And these are not like regular martial artists. These are like ninja masters caliber guys. So yeah, definitely hand-to-hand combat. The Kingpin is no slouch. Okay, and his strength is about as good as any normal human can get in the Marvel comic books. Um, During one battle between him and the Spider-Man, he casually picked up a 1,500-pound barbell and used that as weapon against the Spider-Man. He can uh, easily, and he has demonstrated that, crush human skull with his bare hand. Just in case you guys didn't know that a human skull is about the same density as a bowling ball. So if you think that's not impressive, go and try to crack a bowling ball with your bare hand, and you'll realize how scary this guy is. Right? He cracked people's head when people piss him off with his bare hand. Yeah. Um, so that's some of the attribute, and like I said, he's gone up against guys like Punisher, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Daredevil in hand-to-hand combat, and yeah, okay, he doesn't always win, but none of them's killed him yet, so that counts for something as well, especially in Marvel comic books. So why do I personally feel or identify or like this character and this action figure so much? Well, number one is I always enjoy um, featuring sort of a minority in my action figure collection. So, fat action figure. You have a fat looking. We can't even call him a fat character because he's like, all muscles under that, all that. So he's not really like fat, but he looks fat, right? A lot of time, if you look at this guy hanging on the in his package on the store shelf. And if you didn't know this was Kingpin, you say, "Oh, there's a fat guy in a suit." Yeah. So it's a fat-looking character. So that already make him kind of a interesting in my collection. Uh, Number two, he has kind of a very big nostalgic factor for me because I remember coming across uh, action figure of the Kingpin back when I was like 13 years old. I think it was 1993, and I didn't know who he was, but because again, fat guy in the suit, and it's so rarely uh, to see. It was so rarely that we would see an action figure like that. Uh, and also he, like I said, he just filled in to that archetype of, well, I want a corrupt politician, a corrupt gang boss, a corrupt official of any kind. This guy instantly filled the role. So I was kind of drawn to the Kingpin action figure even from back then. So this action figure, which was released by Hasbro, this one we're looking at was released by Hasbro, and I believe was 2018, 2019. Uh, Definitely bring me back to that first Kingpin action figure that I owned as a child. Now this one is so much bigger and so much better, so much more articulated, but the general idea is the same. Okay, back in the 1994, 93, uh, he was a fat-looking action figure in a white suit, and this guy, even though he's so much bigger and better articulated, still a fat-looking character in a white suit. So there's that nostalgic point for him. But more so than all that, right? Um, to me, Kingpin has like the same kind of cool factor as Batman. They're like the opposite side of the same coin. Uh, Batman, super strong, super driven, super rich, super smart. He used his power and resources for good, but a lot of what he does is based on fear, right? Batman does what he does because of his parents getting murdered when he was little, and he trained himself to peak human condition, so things like that wouldn't happen to him. He would be uh, he would be the creature of the night. He would be out there dealing with the criminals. He would uh, he strike back. He fight back against the card he was dealt in life, and that's basically Kingpin as well, right? Kingpin used his power for criminal, for crime, for well, evil. I guess you can sort of say. But his motivation was very similar. He wanted to take his fate into his own life and rely on himself. And he made his world for himself, building up his body, building up his martial art, became super rich, super powerful, super influential, and all that stuff. So there's kind of a bit of a parallel to be drawn between them. And also, just like Batman, Kingpin is human. He's like normal human. This is why I always love Batman because he's able to throw down with some superhuman opponent, even though he himself is strictly human. Kingpin, same thing. He's just a human. He's a really big human, but he's a human. And he's able to throw down with some of the very powerful superhuman characters in his world. And I think that's very commendable. There's also a few things that I can really identify with this character, not the crime and all that stuff, obviously, but he is a guy who looked really big, and because of the clothes he wear, a lot of people think he's fat. Okay, that happened to me all the time. Johnny Tiger in the winter time always looked fat because I like got thick jacket on and clothes and stuff like that, so I look like a fatso in the winter time. A lot of people uh, rightfully, wrongfully mistaken me for a really fat guy, right? Yeah, okay, you're watching this video, you might think, yeah, you're a fat guy, but yeah, screw you. It's my video. I can think whatever I want. Right? So I can definitely kind of identify with that. I can identify with being thought of as fat just because your clothes is hiding your actual physique. I can also really identify with the mentality that I'm going to do bodybuilding, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do martial art because I hate being tormented by others and I will get myself to be as strong as I can so no one can bully me ever again. That is basically Kingpin when he was a child, and that was my story when I was a teenager as well. I got into serious martial arts and training and bodybuilding and weightlifting because I did not want to be abused anymore. And even though I didn't mention this part in his story, because, like I said, his story is so long and convoluted, the Kingpin actually went blind for a while. He got ambushed and attacked, and he got hurt so bad that he got blinded. And it was because through his money and connection and technology that he was able to see again. Now, I am unable to see, but I definitely can relate with the blind part. So to me, he's a character who has no blindness, and that just really ramp up the cool factor in my head. So there's just so much reason why he's one of my favorite characters and why this action figure is one of my favorite action figure. Is it a really good action figure? Uh, okay, to be honest, no, because the design is very simple, and because of his bulk, the articulation don't work all that good, and because it's a guy in a suit. There's not much you can do with him to make him look all that interesting. Uh, so from an interesting point of view standpoint, he's not very interesting as an action figure. But because of the uh, minority fat look and the nostalgic factor, he is definitely one of my favorite action figures in my collection. Now, there were actually two versions of this Kingpin action figure released. One earlier, I think 2016, 2015, around that time. And you have to buy the entire series, like six figures, to build him. Lucky for me, because I missed that one, lucky for me, Hasbro re-released him all put together. This time you can just buy him on his own, cost about like 40 bucks, I think, something like that. But you don't have to buy all the other figures. You can just buy him. So that was awesome. I love it when they do that. And this one is in his more classic outfit. He got his white jacket with red pockets on it, and he's wearing purple pants and yellow vest, and he got his shaven bald head, and he got blue eyes, and he is definitely very big. You'll see how big he is when we get to doing some size comparison. Um, he is articulated, arms, legs, head, torso all move, but because of how big he is and the way he's built, they don't really move all that good. I mean, you can get most of the generic poses out of him, but he's not going to be doing like high roundhouse kicks or stuff like that. The figure comes with two different heads with a different expression. There's one that's more calm and one that's angry. Now, I'm not going to switch the head on camera this time because honestly, I can't be bothered to go dig out his other head from my the, over hundreds of bags of action figure extra body parts. They are labeled. I did actually get around to labeling all of them, but it's still like they're all sitting in a big drawer, and I would have to pull out like 50, 60 of them before I come across that one, I think. So just know that this figure does come with two different facial expression, and it comes with a little weapon that the Kingpin is also known for carrying sometimes. The Kingpin sometimes carries around this walking stick that has a diamond on the top, and that diamond actually is like a laser weapon. This cane can fire sleep gas and laser and all kind of depending on what episode and what the writers feel like, and he can use this cane to beat people to death or to break security glass and all that stuff. Like he's very deadly with this walking cane. Uh, but of course, uh, in his hand. It just looks super small, super puny, but it is a nice looking accessory for this action figure. His right hand is molded to hold the top, the diamond part of the cane, but it's not always very secure. When you bump him or if he fall over, this is going to go missing. So be careful with that. Now let's get around to a little bit of a size comparison so we can see just how massive the Kingpin is. Here he is, standing right behind his chief nemesis, the Spider-Man himself, and you can see that Spider-Man barely come up to the middle of Kingpin's chest. And just for fun, here is Kingpin's fist right next to Spider-Man's head, and you can see that his fist is literally bigger than Spider-Man's head. Here is the Kingpin with another of his long-time enemy, Daredevil. And look at how Kingpin is decking him with a mighty left hook. And again, his fist is like pretty much the same size as Daredevil's head. And Daredevil, yeah, he's a little bit bigger than Spider-Man, but again, he barely reaches the Kingpin's collarbone with the top of his head. Now we're bringing in another character that often associate or have run into with Kingpin. Here's Luke Cage. Now Luke Cage is not a small guy. Luke Cage is kind of like a hulking, muscular dude. But again, we can see he barely come up to the Kingpin's chin, and his fist just look laughably small right next to the Kingpin's fist. And finally, we have to bring in a version of the Incredible Hulk, and we can see that finally, the Kingpin met his match. They're roughly the same size, although I think the Kingpin is still a tiny bit taller. Although this is a very old Hulk figure. This figure of the Hulk was from 2005. So back then, they still made him a little bit smaller than they do today. So I imagine if we get a Hulk figure from today, he would probably be bigger than the Kingpin, but not by much, not by much at all. And lastly, we have the Kingpin, flanked by a couple of the hand ninja that he command. And look how small they are comparing to this big giant dude. So yeah, here we have it. This is a view of the Kingpin action figure made by Hasbro for the retro Spider-Man toy line in Marvel Legends, and a nice entry into our celebration for your elected officials. Yeah, he is definitely not a good official to elect, but I don't know. Sometimes I think they're all equally bad.